let me throw something out to you, because do you see, going forward, what do you see as some of the issues that would be on the horizon of religion, politics, intersections, future? What other major intersections of religion? We're talking about the religious right, we're talking about the media dealing with Muslims as a political issue rather than a religious issue, and how they distort that for political reasons. But where in the future might you see another major intersection between religion and politics? You see anything particularly on the horizon? For good or for bad?
Well, there is a prospect, as Sarah was talking about, of challenging the idea that people in the pulpit should not be able to endorse candidates directly and take a more direct role in politics. And there is a lot of people on the right do challenge the very idea of separation of church and state. I think that it's a myth and a pernicious one. That the battle over whether the religious movement will be a part of politics in the same way that the NRA is, could transform our political system, and it does. I don't think the coverage of the NRA is great, but it is possible to examine the policies of the NRA in a more neutral way than it is to examine the policies of, say, the Mormon Church, where you are dealing with things that are not susceptible to secular analysis. You really can't look at the motivations behind religious movement in the same way that you can't discuss it in the same terms as a secular political movement. And I think it's the secular media have more difficulty in examining those motivations. And so it does pose a question of, how do you deal with a kind of merger of religion and politics in a way that we have not seen here before.
It's like this, excuse the pun, but it's like this sacred cow. Like how I can have a political argument with you about, everything else, but if I start to say something that is in any way misconstrued to be anti any religion, now that's like, it's like, not talking about your finances. We're not going to talk about your finances. I'm not going to talk about religion. And so it's a very hard, I totally agree with Jim that it's a very hard topic to dissect in the way that we dissect others.
With any religion, you can study it to the nth degree. What are its rituals? What brings it together? What are its issues, and so forth? But until you live the life of that religious faith, you don't know anything more than an academia way of how things work. Because it's a commitment from within. It's a commitment that shapes your life. That's not the kind of stuff that needs to be broadcast in understanding different churches. You can take courses on Buddhism or Hinduism or what have you, as I have, but I realized how touched I am by my own faith belief, and the only way I got to know that is to live it. But the churches in general have a social outlook, and that can be discussed, that can be opened up, and hopefully more and more that will be, and I would hope that would be the future, where we don't try and convert another to our faith beliefs. That's the job of missions, that's the job of the internal church, but to work together for the social good of the community, of the country, of the world. I'm sure most religious beliefs appreciate the image of the human and the dignity of that human. And we ought to be working much more strongly for the social benefits of these people. They're not dirt, they're not trash to be tossed aside. They are people who will help us become more human as we help them. And that's the kind of area that we should be educating in. I don't want to convert you, you don't want to convert me, but we want to work together to convert the sick into healthy people, the imprisoned into free people working, the unemployed with jobs and so forth. That's where we should be, could be, I shouldn't say should. And the question on, well, what's the media? Well, what's religious influence? We can work that question as well. It's just people working together with people for the benefit of all people. And that's what we should be advertising. That's what we should be saying to the world.
Well, I think, sorry.
Can I say something now? I was interested in listening to this conversation because of a particular threat that I'm seeing in the society today. And it hasn't even come up. I don't even know how aware people are of it. But I'm not sure that approaching it from the perspective of religion is even the way to go about it. And I'm talking about a certain kind of Talibanization, if I can say it out loud, that's going on in very important and basic institutions today. One example that has gotten more coverage, although not so much on public radio stations and television stations to my knowledge, is the whole C Street, sub-rosa, kind of like secret religious society that, very highly placed congressional, senatorial people who are involved, for instance, in promoting this death penalty for gays in, where is it, Uganda?
Right.
But there's a whole other one that it's all over blogs that I read. It's highly documented that there is a kind of religious orthodoxy that's taking over the Air Force. And that we have planes that are bombing in the Middle East that have, emblems of Jesus on them, and that soldiers who are speaking out against this, and many are really being punished for this. And there is a guy who collects all this evidence. I can't remember the name of his organization, but it can be found. And this guy is getting death threats for simply making public what is apparently happening on a pretty broad scale. I'm sorry that I can't cite all these documents. I sort of really didn't think that this is what we were going to be talking about tonight, but when we talk about politics and religion, then I think we have to look at issues that are not being spoken of at all, that are related to fundamentally to the fact that we now have a population that no longer is educated in our public schools in Enlightenment values on which this country was founded. We no longer have those 18th century values. And people would not understand even what's the problem with having this kind of preaching going on from highly placed military officials in the Air Force. What's the problem with that? So yes, it's complicated, but I think there are issues that are much larger almost than any that we've been discussing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we didn't get to that. The question was, why is there so little coverage by the media of the fellowship, one of the most politically connected ministries, and we just didn't get to that. And I don't know why there isn't.
I don't know why either.
Jim, maybe you have some more information about
It's
it.
very little.
Well, I mean,
I think people are generally
we're just
scared of it.
talking about
Me too.
the sacred cow
Right.
of religion. It is, there is a fear of seeming to be anti-religion, you know, and that if you are, the fellowship is a strange cult.